We are now joined by the head coach of Minnesota football, Coach PJ Fleck. Coach, whenever I see you on the sideline, like you just have so much juice and clear love for the game. Where does that come from for you?
Well, first of all, thanks for having us on, JD. I think it's just the love and passion for sport. I was a kid that played 4 sports growing up. I was involved in everything. I had a ton of energy as a kid, and I think sports was a release for probably my parents just to be able to get me out of the house, keep me doing different activities and get me to go to bed at night. So I just fell in love with competition. I fell in love with all types of sports at a very early age. And obviously that's carried over into, 42-year-old head coach now.
And it's infectious. I mean, watching your team play, obviously they respond to you, and y'all had a ton of success last year, 9 wins, got a bowl victory. What's the feel around your team going into 2023? You got winter conditioning behind you now into spring ball. What's the feel around Minnesota?
Well, it's exciting. We've got a very youthful team, inexperienced team. Last year we benefited, pretty much the last few years, we benefited off a very experienced team. Guys that have played a ton of football for us, Tanner Morgan, Mariano Sori-Marin, Jordan Howden, Muhammad Ibrahim. I mean, we had a lot of guys who played a ton of football for us. And now we transition into some inexperienced guys, which is really exciting as we go forward. But this is a fun team to coach because whatever you put in front of them, they just knock it down. This is a team that continues to grow at a very, very rapid rate. And they have big visions of what they want to accomplish in 2023. And I think that's what's exciting about this football team is even though they're inexperienced, they've seen what other teams have done here, and they have massive expectations for themselves.
When you look at this roster, what are some of those areas of opportunity? You mentioned guys stepping into new leadership roles, but maybe on the field, what are some of those areas that you're really excited for America to see come fall?
Well, like anything, the quarterback position, I mean, technically as a head football coach, I've had 2 quarterbacks that actually played for me throughout 10 years. Think about that. Zach Terrell at Western Michigan and then Tanner Morgan our entire time here at the University of Minnesota, who ended up being the all-time, winningest quarterback in the history of the school. And now we transition into a new quarterback. And Ethan Kaliakmanis is a young man who got in there halfway through the season last year, won a bunch of games, won the bowl game. And then Cole Kramer is right there in the hunt too, who's been around here for a lot of years. But I think the quarterback position, I think every team starts and ends with that. I think Ethan's and Cole both have incredible intangible. They both have incredible talent, not only just their skill, but that's going to be huge in terms of the leadership of the entire football team, not just on the off side, but the defensive special teams. And then we're returning a guy by the name of Tyler Newbin. Everybody understands and knows he came back on the defensive side of the ball. So we're looking for his leadership. And then Brevin Spanford, Chris Ottman-Bell. Then we've added a bunch of new pieces on the offense, defense, and even special teams that I think collectively as a team, if this team is really, truly a connected team, which you see all in college football, college basketball, we have no idea what your roster is even going to look like until June, which is exciting. We basically have 3 to 4 signing periods almost and 3 recruiting cycles per year these days with the transfer portal. But I really like how this team's coming together. A lot of people aren't going to know much about our team, but I think this is a team that has a chance and an ability to have a lot of success.
And that was one of those things I wanted to talk to you about, Coach, with just the way that not just college football, but you said it, just college sports in general with the transfer portal and NIL. How do you tailor your pitch differently to try and get the right personnel into your locker room?
Well, it's pretty much been the same pitch for us. This is going on year 11. It's all about fit. We don't necessarily believe in recruiting. We believe in selecting. From the student athlete's perspective, selecting us, and then for us, selecting them. It's got to be a relationship that fits. More important than ever in college football right now, people are picking places because of packages, because of deals, because of who's giving more money. What does the NIL look like more than ever? That's not necessarily, 95% of your time in that university is going to be spent in that head coaches or that football environment or that culture. Under that watch, under those standards and those observations and those rules and expectations. So I think fit's more important than it's ever been. And I think that's what we've always fallen back in on. I'm not for everybody. I know I get a lot of attention for saying that, but every coach isn't for everybody. Or there'd only be one college coach that everybody went to. So we're all about selecting. We talk about loving your life academically, athletically, socially, spiritually. If you like, you got a chance to be a heck of a football player because football is a piece of our life. And I think there's a lot of people out there that value that and don't value that. And we're just looking for the people who really, really value their entire life and know how one thing affects everything. and who want to be better people. And if you're a better person, you will be a better football. It's all part of your life. So I think fit is more important than anything right now. Transition into this new era of college football.
When it comes to fit, a lot of kids want to talk about, what culture is best for me at this program or that program. For you, how would you define your culture at Minnesota and how you run things?
Well, first of all, I think that, every single person throws the word culture around. It's one of the most overused words in sports without any true, clear definition of what it actually is. And everybody has their own version of it. Everybody that runs a sports team has their own culture, whether they say the word or not. But for us, we define it as connecting people. That's all cultures do, is connect people. And we're going to connect people differently than a different team. And that team's going to connect differently than another team. And we actually name our culture. It's called the hyperculture, HYPRR. Now, it's an acronym, but everything we do fits within those 5 things: the how, yours, process, result, and response. And I'm not going to get into what all that means, but everything we do fits into that. Standards, expectations, how we work, our response mechanisms, how we value data and results, the type of work ethic we have, our vision for the whole program, and then the type of people we bring in. So everybody has their own culture. It's just we define it. And I think, when you're at the University of Minnesota, you've got to have a pretty clear, direct vision of what you want, especially when, there's, we take 4 or 5 kids out of the state of Minnesota every year, and you're going more national. And you've got to be able to tell why people should come to Minnesota, what it's going to be like, not only here at the university or in the state of Minnesota, but also within your culture. I think that's really important.
And Coach, the Big Ten is going to be looking a little bit different here in the coming years. USC and UCLA are going to be joining the conference. Sounds like there might be even more teams depending on what, the tectonic plates of college football look like. In your mind, what's the direction of the Big Ten in terms of, how it could look for y'all with expansion?
Yeah, championship football. The standard keeps going up. And you look into the additions of the league with UCLA and UCLA, or USC and UCLA, it's only getting better. Right? This isn't like, hey, who are we going to select just out of just a bunch of average teams? This is, who are we selecting of the elite? And I think that's a lot of fun. We're getting rid of the divisions. We're going 1 through 16. I think it becomes one of the power conferences that, the SEC, the Big Ten, you start hearing about those 2 conferences really separating themselves. And I think they've definitely done that by the addition of UCLA and USC. And who knows what college football looks like in 2 more years. We have no idea. So, but I think it's in a very, very healthy state, especially as we get into the college football playoff expansion. I think it becomes a very, very attractive conference, even more than it is now. And it's one of the most premier conferences in the league, college football. And I think adding UCLA and USC only add to that, not only on the field, but off the field in terms of the academic standards that the Big Ten has.
You talked about recruiting nationally. Does adding 2 schools from the West Coast, in your mind, potentially extend Minnesota's reach, or other schools, within your geographical region reach on a recruiting standpoint?
Well, I do know that our assistant coaches wanted to. They want to go spend some days in Malibu and Los Angeles. They want to take that over for sure, especially in January. They're like, we need to hit the West Coast, Coach. But I think that for us, I think the way TV has technically changed locations, I think, 10, 15 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago, who you played and where you played, whether conference, non-conference, you could bring your market, bring your value, bring your team, how you play to another region and get those people in that region to watch you. These days, you can watch every game. You can watch games and soccer games in the Premier League in Europe at all hours of the night. We have access to just so much sports and so many teams that I don't necessarily think that even having them maybe even helps us in recruiting. I just think it expands the Big Ten, the Big Ten footprint from West Coast to East Coast to North to South. It truly makes it from like a national conference. And I think that's critical for the development of our league as we go from, the Big Ten alumni on the West Coast, East Coast, North and South. I think it's critical for the development and the expansion of the Big Ten. But to think that, we're going to get just more players because we're playing a team, UCLA and USC, I think they see those matchups anyway, whether it's bowl games or they see those in non-conference play. They see that anyway with the TV markets and the TV deals these days.
It's funny, the colder it gets, I'm sure in Minnesota, the better the talent maybe looks on the West Coast. So, hey, we got to go see this guy. His grade's looking like it's getting even better as the snow continues to pour in Minnesota. Coach, last question for you before we get you out of here. We appreciate all your time. What does row the boat specifically mean for this year's team?
Well, first of all, we got to create it all. I think that's what it means for this team. I mean, we've got to make sure that everybody has in their oar in the water, rowing in the same direction. Making sure everybody's going the same direction and the same speed. We got to make sure that we get everybody caught up the boat. I mean, we've got to be able to put the sacrifice before anything. We've got to be able to trust each other, players to players, coach to coach, coach to player, player to coach. Trust is incredibly important. And then serving your teammates, serving each other, making sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to be there, building the biggest boat possible. And then our compass is, we got to be exactly who we say we are. If we want to be able to be a championship program, then everything we do and who we surround ourselves with has to be done at that championship standard. And then obviously row the boat means never give up. So you keep doing that no matter if it's good or bad. I think we're in a society right now, if everybody just wants to hear how good they're doing, it's really hard to hear that you're not doing certain things that are right. We don't want to hear the negative, but we really want to hear the positive. Well, there's both to growth. I wear a tie on the sideline. And I wear a tie on the sideline to represent a man who is still one of the most influential men in my life today, Mike Nolan, who told me in a meeting I wasn't good enough. He cut me. He said, "You're not good enough. You'll never play in the National Football League again. Please stop. You're actually hurting the league by playing. Just stop. You're not good enough anymore." And I wear a tie on the sideline to represent him and the amount of impact he had on my life for the transparency and the honesty. And I wouldn't be where I am without him today. So sometimes, we want to hear all this good, but we got to grow the accountability and responsibility and hearing those hard conversations. It's getting tougher and tougher in 2023 to hold people to that standard without the fear of somebody just walking out of your program. But, the right ones stay and the right fit stay. And that's part of where college football is at right now. So that's how we're going to keep rowing the boat. Look forward to coaching this team. They're a fun team to coach, that's for sure. We've been 4 practices in. And I couldn't ask for any more out of a football team right now. And that youth is really exciting.
Well, we're on board, Coach, and we appreciate you spending some time with us and excited to watch y'all get after here throughout the spring and well into the fall. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, JD. Row the boat, Sky. Mago Gophers, man. Thanks.